Nigeria records 1,964 fresh COVID-19 cases on Thursday, highest one-day infections so far. Akeredolu's herdsmen order in Ondo State sparks back and forth among presidency, northern elders, Ondo government. In international news, fire guards India's biggest vaccine plant. And in sport, IOC says Tokyo Olympics will go on despite coronavirus pandemic.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control has reported the highest one-day infection figure in the country on Thursday. The 1,964 new cases have boosted the national tally to 116,655. Lagos backs the highest number, 1,824 cases, distantly followed by the Federal Capital Territory at 246 infections. Plateau and Kaduna chipped in 166 and 128 cases respectively, while 14 states penciled in double-digit infections. 6 states rounded off the report with single digits, and CDC reports 798 recoveries in Lagos State and 191 in Ondo State. Nigeria can now look forward to assessing COVID-19 vaccines by the end of February. Nigeria Governors Forum Chairman Kayode Fayemi says the country is collaborating with the World Bank to ensure the country is able to assess the vaccines. Fayemi gave the information while briefing the forum on its meeting with the chairman of the board of the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization, Gavi, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, on the rollout of the vaccines. Reports say Fayemi had told the meeting there is an arrangement for the World Health Organization to work on ensuring equity in the distribution of COVID-19 vaccines in developing nations. He said Nigeria, one of a dozen African nations that has expressed a readiness among the 92 qualified countries for the facility. Its first shipment of vaccines should arrive by the end of February. So much of what Nigeria is considered normal lifestyle has been rearranged by the COVID-19 pandemic. Last year's lockdown has introduced new realities in the use of the internet. As correspondent Kelechi Mekalam reports, it has accelerated internet subscription in the country.
Oluwapo Samuel runs this one-stop shop for internet services in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. She vends internet hardware and data subscription for major telcos in the country. Her customer base has increased by about 65% since March 2020, recording a turnover of over 500%.
Before COVID, you have people taking about 15 gig, 30 gig, and still tell you, oh, I can't exhaust this, it's too much. But when the COVID came and all of that, you have people taking up to like 350 gig in a month. The impact, I must say, has been positive because, of course, now we have more people subscribed to your platform, more people paying, and the turnover has been massive.
According to the Oxford Business Group, Nigeria's telecom market is one of the fastest growing in the world and the largest in Africa. Internet subscribers rose by 7.88 million in the third quarter of 2020 to hit 151.5 million. The surge was mainly driven by the COVID-19 lockdown.
It all started with the people stay home, and then they had to study online, and then offices shutting down, and then they had to work from home. And then I would also include boredom. A lot of people were bored staying at home and they had absolutely nothing to do. So most times their company is the Netflix, which also consumes a lot of data.
We have strong policy that is driving the growth of the sector. You see where a situation where the sector is well manned, well regulated, well monitored, And this allows for the progress or the growth we're seeing because of the role the NCC and the other agencies play, and then the policy drive around it, particularly with the Buhari administration policy around communication and all of that.
The telecom sector is seen as a huge contributor to the nation's economy. Besides job creation and business growth, it accounted for about 14.30% of the national GDP in the third quarter of 2020. That's compared to 10.6% recorded in the previous year. Many are now taking advantage of the vibrancy offered by the telecoms industry and diversifying their sources of income.
The order by Ondo State's Governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu that unregistered herders in the state must vacate government forests is receiving strong support from most Ondo residents. But different reactions have been coming out of the presidency and northern leaders on the governor's order. The presidency says the governor should not issue a unilateral order banning unregistered herders from the state's forest reserves. Akeredolu responded he would do what is right for the state. Northern elders, on the other hand, have basically issued an order to the governor to leave the herders alone. To ensure the governor would not back down, his supporters, including farmers, drivers, and forest guards, took to the streets of Akure to encourage him to stick to his order. One protesting farmer said if the current state of insecurity is not quickly checked, it might lead to famine in the state. Meanwhile, Ondo traditional rulers are also throwing their weight behind Governor Akeredolu's directive to the unregistered herders. The monarchs briefed journalists after an emergency meeting in Akure on Thursday, during which they called on President Muhammadu Buhari to demonstrate to the world that he is the father of all Nigerians, irrespective of ethnicity. They also said some persons are deliberately twisting the governor's directive, but they stated the Fulanis, like any other ethnic group, are free to live and conduct their legitimate businesses anywhere in the country, including Ondo State.
Coming up, African news. Medical oxygen in short supply in Zimbabwe health facilities. And later, international news. Fire guards India's biggest vaccine plant.
You are watching ANN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Zimbabwe is getting hit at every turn by the worsening situation of the coronavirus pandemic. As correspondent Varaya Nwakutuya reports, medical oxygen is now in short supply at the country's health facilities.
Zimbabwe's second wave is spreading across the country with greater ferocity than the first. Since the beginning of the year, 8 out of 10 patients that have been treated at this clinic have been COVID-19 cases. Between 30 to 40% of those have been in respiratory distress, which requires oxygen for treatment.
The first phase had quite few people progressing with the symptoms to need ventilation or to need oxygen. But all of a sudden, the second attack comes heavily. And with so many people now requiring oxygen, it means pressure becomes quite high on oxygen. So the demand becomes very much quite high, and you find a lot of people looking for hospitals to be admitted in order to get some oxygen. So we find some people actually trying to purchase oxygen from their homes. You find people trying to look for tanks oxygen to do oxygen therapy at homes.
According to Marisa, the leading gas supplier has had to cut other product lines in order to increase their production of medical oxygen.
We have our main company, BOC, which has increased its production capacity to beyond 70 tons per day. of oxygen, and from 50, which means there's a 40% increase in demand for oxygen. They've actually stopped the production of industrial oxygen that is used for welding and so forth, because the life comes first.
Zimbabwe has reverted to hard lockdown restrictions until February. Intercity movement is banned, an overnight curfew has been extended, and gatherings are capped at 30 people as the country desperately tries to halt the resurgent spread.
We are a little resourced countries in Africa, and our major aim is to be on prevention more than on treatment. We do not have enough capacity for treatment, but we can do something on prevention. We don't want to fail on both.
The government says it has released about $86 million to recruit more health workers, procure medicines and personal protective equipment, and increase capacity at hospitals to admit more patients.
The Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC, has been spreading its wings around the world to ensure the continent gets the vaccines it needs to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, it has formed a task force to facilitate standardized COVID-19 vaccine approval. Correspondent Kulita Wanjohi has the details.
While the African Union's plan is to procure COVID-19 vaccines as a bloc, some individual countries are already making bilateral agreements with manufacturers. The World Health Organization says there are currently more than 50 COVID-19 vaccine candidates undergoing human trials. According to the World Health Organization, having lots of vaccines in development increases the chances that one or more successful vaccines will be proven to be safe and efficacious for the intended prioritized populations. But it is cautioning countries to obtain only vaccines that have been scientifically proven to be fit for use. The Africa CDC has formed a task force to guide African countries on this.
Regulatory agencies that have come together to establish themselves as a collective of regulatory bodies so that we can work regionally using the same and standardized approach from the African CDC to facilitate the approval process and regulatory processes of vaccines. So that if a vaccine is submitted, say in South Africa, they work with the SADC regulatory authorities there and put their stamp of approval.
The African Union has already secured 270 million doses from 3 manufacturers, AstraZeneca, Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson. The first 2 have provisional approval from the WHO to be used as a double dose globally. The task force will guide on approved doses for each vaccines too.
So our position is clear. If a vaccine was tested for safety and also tested in phase 3 clinical trials as a double dose, it should be used as a double dose. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine is coming up as it's a single dose. We keep our fingers crossed that the vaccine will show efficacy, good efficacy results. And then it will be the emergency use authorization will be based on a single dose. And at that point, of course, it will be used as a single dose.
And with over 200 vaccine candidates for COVID-19 being developed, the Africa CDC says it is advisable for countries to use the African Union as a main point of contact to the manufacturers.
Rwanda has received the antiviral drug Favipiravir to treat severely sick COVID-19 patients. This comes at a time when the number of infections has dramatically risen and the capital city of Kigali is again in lockdown. Rwandans say they are happy about the arrival of the drug in the country. Medical experts say this medicine fights with the virus and stops its spread. They say research has confirmed that the medicine works. Favipiravir has been used to treat influenza in Japan. The U.S. National Center for Biotechnology Information says the antiviral medicine was first used against COVID-19 in Wuhan, the pandemic's epicenter. It's also received approval for emergency use in Italy and has been used in Japan, Russia, Ukraine, and Moldova during the COVID-19 pandemic. Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have recently approved the drug.
When we return, international news, fire guts India's biggest vaccine plant. And later, sport, IOC says Tokyo Olympics will go on despite coronavirus pandemic.
You are watching ANN. Somewhere in the world, every second of the day, news is happening. And of course, Nigeria is bustling with news day and night. That is why ANN doesn't sleep. Our eyes are peeled, wide open, so no story escapes our radar. We stay abreast of world events and happenings at home. We keep you up to the minute in the world of sports. We give you information to stay on top of your investments and all the hard facts you'll need to navigate your day. If you miss us on air, you can keep up to date on our website and on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. We are ANN, African News Network. We do news right in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. 5 persons are reported killed in a fire that broke out at the world's largest vaccine manufacturer, the Serum Institute of India. The company said in a statement the blaze would not affect production of the COVID-19 vaccine because the company has other available facilities. Mayor of Pure City in Southern Maharashtra City, Modida Mohol, confirmed bodies of 5 construction workers were found in the rubble after firefighters extinguished the flames. The cause of the fire has not been determined. Serum Institute of India is the world's largest maker of vaccines and has been contracted to manufacture 1 billion doses of the AstraZeneca Oxford University vaccine. Spain is also reporting the deaths of 3 persons on Wednesday in a gas leakage explosion in its capital, Madrid. 8 others were also reported injured. Images show 4 floors were impacted by the explosion. Firefighters are evacuating people from the area. Madrid Mayor Jose Luis says the impact of the explosion could bring down the building at any time. The Catholic Archbishop of Madrid says the completely demolished building belonged to the Church of the Virgin de la Paloma and San Pedro el Real next door. The United Kingdom and the European Union are at loggerheads over the status of the bloc's ambassador in London. The UK is refusing to give Yavuz Al-Madeh full diplomatic status granted to other ambassadors. The Foreign Office is insisting he and his officials should not have the privileges and immunities afforded to diplomats under the Vienna Convention. This means the ambassador could not have the chance to present his credentials to the Queen like other diplomatic heads of mission. The issue is expected to be discussed by EU foreign ministers next Monday when they meet for the first time since the post-Brexit transition period ended last December. The Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office wants to treat the EU delegation only as representatives of an international organization. This means EU diplomats would not have the full protection of the Vienna Convention, giving them immunity from detention, criminal jurisdiction, and taxation. The EU argues it is not a typical international organization because it has its own currency, judicial system, and the power to make law. Former Conservative Minister for Europe, David Lidington, warned that non-recognition could set a bad precedent for regimes to hate EU ambassadors speaking up for human rights defenders. U.S. President Joe Biden has signed 10 executive orders on a COVID-19 health equity task force to ensure an equitable pandemic response and recovery. One of the signed documents, the Defense Production Act, will ensure increased production of PPE and vaccines. The president also put in place a national vaccination campaign in order to meet his goal of administering 100 million shots during his first 100 days. President Biden said the plan was developed with input from the nation's top infectious disease experts, Dr. Anthony Fauci, among other advisors and experts. Biden says he's deferring to scientists and science, so the American public will be hearing more from Dr. Fauci and other well-genuine experts and scientists. The president emphasized the need for Americans to wear face masks in order to stop the spread of the virus, especially during its first 100 days in office. COVID-19 has infected more than 24 million Americans and killed more than 400,000 of them. Hungary has become the first country in the European Union to give approval to the Russian coronavirus vaccine, Sputnik V. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban's chief of staff confirmed that the Russian jab and the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine have been approved. Foreign Minister Peter Szijjarto has been scheduled to travel to Moscow for further talks, where he is expected to discuss a shipment and distribution plans. Hungarian health officials are also in Beijing for discussions on the approval and immediate delivery of 1 million doses of the Sinopharm vaccine already being used in Serbia. Sinopharm is a Chinese company that announced last month phase 3 trials of its jab showed 79% effectiveness. At least 140,000 Hungarians have already been vaccinated with it.
Up next, sport. IOC says Tokyo Olympics will go on despite coronavirus pandemic. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sport, a South Korean court has sentenced a former top speed skating coach to more than 10 years in prison for repeatedly sexually assaulting an Olympic champion, Shim Chuk-chi. Shim Chuk-chi is a star short track speed skater with 4 Olympic medals, including 2 golds, accused former coach Cho Chae-twom of rape in 2019. He was indicted after she said she endured dozens of incidents of sexual abuse over the course of more than 3 years, starting in 2014 when she was 17. International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach says COVID-19 state of emergency in Tokyo will not stop the Olympic Games in July. He did not give details of the numbers of spectators, but said the IOC has to be flexible and may need to make sacrifices to protect the lives of the people involved. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Have a great weekend.